I found this on the web for who is the top ranked recruit in the country. Check it out.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unclouded Recruit, where we get reviews from former student athletes about their experience at their universities. Let go. Everybody, on another episode of Unclouded Recruit, we got a real special guest today who played basketball and is doing some modeling. So I want to introduce him right now. So tell us where you're from and your name and where you're from.
All right, my name's Chukwukere Ekeh. Most people call me AK. From Little Rock, Arkansas. Live in Atlanta, Georgia now. Just trying to do my thing.
Okay. When did you start playing, basketball?
Basketball for me started at a super young age. So I have three brothers. Two of them are older. So we all played basketball, all grew up going through like the YMCA leagues, playing summer ball. And so it's just always been a part of our lives, a part of my life and my story.
Okay. When did you realize that, basketball could take you to college or that you were really good at it? When did you realize that?
It was probably around middle school when I started getting just a little bit taller than every other kid. When I noticed in PE that I was running the court, not losing the game, throughout whole PE classes, I was like, man, I might have something special, and I started looking at what my older brother was doing and who he was playing against, and they're all telling me like, oh man, you might have it. And so that's kind of what got me on that track. Like, hey, I might be able to go all the way.
Okay. So how tall are you?
I'm 6'9".
You're 6'9"? Okay. So when did you have your first growth spurt? When did you realize that you're probably going to be tall?
I've always been like the tallest kid in class. It was like that. But then it was probably end of middle school towards like first year high school where I shot up and I'm already like, 6'2", 6'3", pretty quickly and still getting taller. So,
dang. I mean, I'm 6'3", man, but 6'9", that's a different level, man. That's tall, man. You stand out. You're a tall figure. I mean, people see you. So you started playing basketball. You started realizing that you're pretty good. How did the recruiting process go for you? Like, how did that start happening?
Recruiting process was interesting. I got the opportunity to play on some really good AAU teams, Arkansas Wings and stuff like that. So I had opportunities to go to a lot of different, tournaments, get to speak with a lot of different coaches, go to a lot of different facilities, see what that looked like. And then, coming into junior, senior year, started getting some offers rolling in and places that wanted me to come, either see campus or play, with Fort Smith being one of them where I actually ended up attending. And that was actually unique for me. I chose it because, one, I got a full offer for basketball, but also a full offer for academics, which I just thought was kind of unique and a good position to put myself in.
Yeah, that sounds very unique. You don't hear guys where they get, they have the option to get their education paid for in different formats in different ways. Usually just always a sports, never really both. So I think that's really unique. So you chose, what initially made you choose you? Because you thought it was a good fit. You said that you had, both scholarships on both sides of the spectrum. How did you did you take a visit? How was that?
So I took an official visit, really liked the campus, really liked some of the guys that I met. And then part of it I have to actually give to my parents' wisdom in terms of telling me how much, a financial crutch if I decide to go out of state or go somewhere else where, maybe I didn't get a full ride offer immediately. They wanted me to walk on or do something of that nature of, hey, that money, it's a lot different than you think it is, going $40,000, $50,000 in debt versus having a school that's, willing to actually pay you to come on campus and get your degree. And so I owe that to my parents' wisdom, and then I just accepted it from there.
Got you. So you get on campus. You're a freshman. How was that experience? How was was it a culture shock? Was it just different? I mean, because Fort Smith is a different culture, different environment. It's very different than a lot of cities. How was that transition from high school to UFS and playing ball there?
And it actually worked out well because UFS is a smaller campus, like a much smaller population actually lived on the school campus. So it was really easy to get to know people, met some really good lifelong friends there. And it kind of felt like a natural transition from high school where it's like, all right, a lot of people are in the same boat. A lot of people, it's their first time away from home. Yeah, I'm playing a sport, which gives me that added difference. But it helped me easily come into my own and figure out, what I like to do, what it's going to look like, outside of practice, what it's going to look like living in a city, in a community like Fort Smith, which kind of having that small hometown feel, people kind of gather around you and try to support you best they can.
Got you. So you're on campus, you're meeting a lot of people. How did that first year, those first couple of years go for you, you know, and what led you to make a big time decision? You know, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So first few years on campus, it was tough because coming in, I am very academically minded. My mom was a teacher, so wanting to do really well in school, but also, you know, try to be a top tier athlete. You know, where you want to go in, you want to compete, but you find out it's a lot tougher than you think it is. Like, you know, you come on campus, you think, all right, I was the guy in high school, so I'm easily going to be the guy. I must be the guy in college as well. When nah, you're coming in behind guys who've been there, you know, 3-4 years, sometimes 5 if they redshirted, and they're not trying to give their spot up that quick. And so you meet that tension of, all right, now I have to go back to being a learner, like learning a new offense, learning a new coach's system, learning a new coach's personality, learning how to travel long distances, which in high school, you know, for most high schools, that's not a thing. Like, you might go a couple hours, 1 or 2 here, but college, it's, you know, a different game. Traveling on charter buses, 14 hours, you know, missing school half the week, coming back, having to make a test up. So learning how to balance that for me was kind of difficult those first 2 years, and figuring out, you know, what do I want my life to look like?
Gotcha.
Which, to your point, I think you were leading into that decision. I decided after my sophomore year, after playing 2 years, to transition into just full-time academics and pursue that, try to pursue some other different things, whether that be internships, traveling a little bit, trying to actually see, I guess, what else life had to offer during those college years.
And so, from my understanding, I've kind of dealt with this myself. It felt like, you know, did it ever get to the point where your coaches were, you know, wanted you all in on basketball and they didn't want you to think about academics? Yeah, they wanted you to be eligible, you know, because you couldn't play if you're not eligible. But did it ever feel like, you know, you need to focus on basketball? This is what you need. Did you ever feel that tension about that with any coaches? Or
You definitely feel that pull of like to not try to, I guess, spread yourself too thin in terms of like extracurricular activities, because like basketball, apparently, like, you know, for a lot of those guys, it's what's paying your ticket, it's what's paying for your books, it's what's paying for your housing. So your focus needs to be here, and we need you to be all in for the team. Which, you know, humans are humans, man. You got things going on that happen outside of a basketball court or football field, whether that be your family, whether you're just having personal issues or trouble. So sometimes it was tough just try to, you know, put yourself all into a game. And that for me was kind of that tension I felt all the time. It's like, man, I don't feel 100% of my heart being with basketball like maybe I was when I was a kid, like where I used to love going out and, you know, just shooting and practicing extra hours and running around, you know, just for the love of it. I kind of lost a lot of that love coming out of high school, going into college for those first few years.
and I can attest to that, man. I can see it. You know, I'm big on academics too as well. And what I'm trying to get at, man, and trying to think is that, like, you know, these coaches sometimes, you know, they care about you for 4 or 5 years, and once you out the door, you're out the door. And if you don't really engage yourself in other activities on campus, you can feel really restrained in life. And I've met a lot of guys, seen a lot of guys go through that process when the NBA or the NFL doesn't work out. You didn't do anything outside of your sport to elevate. You didn't do no internships. You didn't do nothing. You didn't meet nobody. You didn't meet no alumni. You didn't talk to nobody. All you did was try to, you know, finesse your way through school and get more playing time and work out and get bigger, and thinking you're going to go to the league. And then when it didn't work out, your coach is recruiting another class. He's got other stuff he has to do. He doesn't have time to worry about you and what's next in your life. I mean, did you realize that at that point? Like, you know, this is
I think you start to see it just in terms of like, one, the relationships, like, you know, when you're with a group of guys all the time, that becomes kind of your family, not in a bad way, but it's just like you start not really seeing much outside of that group of guys, whether that be your teammates, your coaching staff. So you don't really get involved with people who are right there around you during those same years that could probably help you or benefit you, whether that, like I said, be alumni, whether it be people who are just invested in the programs who want to see you succeed. And like I said, and especially in the African-American community, I know some other minority communities, so many of us think we're about to make it, like where our sports are going to pay our ticket for life, when it's almost true for no one. Like, it's a very small marginal percentage that, you know, you're going to come out, play professionally for a long-term career that's going to get you past, let's say, even your early 30s. You know, most of the guys that I know that have even had a chance to go overseas are done now, whether that be through injuries, just not getting re-signed. It's just a more difficult transition than you think, and understanding your life is much bigger than your sport. Your sport at some point is going to have to end just physically, no matter who you are. But understand that to build out the rest of you as a person, that's a lifelong endeavor.
Okay. So that's a great point. Did you ever have NBA dreams? Was that something? You're 6'9". You're in that range, that height where it could really happen for you. Did you ever have dreams like that? NBA, like, hey, I can actually maybe potentially make it, or this is what I want to pursue, or?
Man, I remember in middle school talking about it with guys. I was actually catching up with an old friend who's in medical school now. Well, he actually finished medical school, but he's talking about, man, did you ever think you were still going to be like, you used to talk about going to NBA every day, middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And I was like, I know, man. I thought I had it. I thought eventually, it was like a certain path. Like you set your mind to it. All right, you go play high school, do well, go to college, you blow up, eventually get signed, and that's just your life. But like I said, I found that different heart for the game where it's like, man, I didn't love showing up, doing the extra reps as much as I did in high school. It's hard, focusing and training your body in the summer, when you want to, like you said, go maybe try to go work, make some money and like not be broke, for half the year. It's hard putting yourself in that position and then thinking, man, is there something else I'm also built for? I had an opportunity to be involved in Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which was really important and valuable for me, which showed me that, the way God sees me is more than just an athlete. So why should I see myself as just an athlete? And we talk about tension. No matter what sport you play, I feel like every athlete, when they play their last game in college, if they're not going on to the professional level, you have this identity crisis where you're like, who am I? Like, because for so long, and for me, that was like one of the biggest moments when I stopped playing basketball after my second year, when people would come up to me and say, hey, do you play basketball here? And for the first time, my answer was no. Like, I don't play basketball. Like, no, what do I tell you? But no, I'm still tall. Like, that's not what they want to hear. So I didn't have an answer for that for a long time. Like who was I? So, yeah.
And I know that can be tough. Making that transition, you're right. Every athlete goes through that phase, especially when coming out of college. I went through that phase too recently. Like, hey, who am I? What do I want to do in my life? Where do I see myself? What are the things I like? What are some things I want to do? Because for 4 or 5 years, in some guys' cases, 6 years, all they worry about and care about is football or basketball, whatever sport they play, and trying to make it to the league, especially, minorities. That's all we feel like is our ticket. And like I said, like for you to be 6'9" and you give up basketball and you're on campus and people are seeing like, oh, there goes a black tall male. He has to be on the basketball team. He can't just be here for education. He's got to play ball. Did that ever kind of hurt your feelings of like, man, or kind of show you how society can put you in a box and say, oh, well, because I've had it to me like, oh, do you play? First thing people ask me, oh, do you play football? They didn't even know who I was or nothing. It was just like, hey, do you play football or are you, why are you here? It was just kind of like, did you ever feel like that? Like,
exactly. Yeah, I felt like that. And I still feel like that sometimes, where I feel like people devalue me to a point where it's like I can only be for entertainment. Like, you understand that I love to read books. I'm a well-read person, that I love to go out and serve in my community and give back to people, that I love to inspire and encourage others. But no one ever asked me about those things when you first see me. Like, and I was like, I wish you would ask some of those questions more about the person than about physical attributes. It's like, oh, you're 6'9", you must play like that. And that's how most people come to me. Oh, you must play basketball. And then even being in Atlanta, oh, you must play. You play for the Hawks, you play for the Falcons. And it's because I'm like, you clearly never seen me on TV. Otherwise, you'd be like saying my name. But
you've had people say that, like, oh, you play for the Atlanta Hawks? Oh, my God. That's crazy. That is crazy. But it's not shocking, though. It's just like, hey, I see a black, tall male. He's got to play for the Atlanta Hawks, It's just a stereotype, I guess. But like I said, I think so once you finished up ball at UAFS and you kind of made that transition to being a normal student, what are some things that opened your eyes to your opportunities that you could do as a student, not just as a student athlete now?
For me, it was like finding ways to quickly get involved. So thankfully, I knew lots of other people on campus, like through my scholarship program. And so I found ways to like just join some student organizations. I joined like a business school organization. I went on a Maymester trip, which is like one where you get to go out of the country for a week, kind of at the end of the year. So I got to do that and go have my first out of country experience. I immediately tried to find mentors. And this is something I'll tell anybody, any male, female, athlete, non-athlete, try to find people who are walking down the path that you admire, can see yourself going down. So I ended up having 3 mentors throughout college. One who owned his own oil and gas business, did really well. One who had been a former movie director, now he was running a nonprofit, and another who owned his own chiropractic business in Fort Smith. And all these men came and poured into me, tried to give me the best wisdom that they had, the best advice they could give to allow me to then make my own decisions of how I'm going to try to, build out my future. And that's the beauty of having mentors, people who can give you perspective. And so that helped me, of course, figure out what I want to do on campus, even while I was going into my graduation year, trying to figure out, career options, what I want to do. So I did an internship. I did go and ask to shadow some people hey, I thought I wanted to run a marketing agency at one point. So I actually went and got to speak to a guy who owned a marketing agency in Fort Smith and sit with him for lunch and breakfast a few times to ask him questions about his business, ask him how he built it up. And those opportunities are invaluable. And that's why I encourage anyone, if you don't know where to start, just find something you're interested in and then ask people who you admire or think can bring essential value to your life.
Okay. So do you think you'd have those opportunities if you were still on the team at UAFS during that time? Do you think those opportunities would have been limited?
Yeah, just from a time perspective. I wish I could say I could have still done it, but just from a time perspective, it's almost impossible. You're either traveling, training, practicing, or at an actual game. So it's just hard to manage with an athletic schedule.
Gotcha. So you have, like I said, you have a very, very unique story. I mean, a lot of kids, they don't have that insight about, hey, I'm more than just an athlete. I can go out here in the world. I can make a difference. I can be involved on campus. Even after I'm done playing ball, even though I'm 6'9", a lot of kids, if they're 6'9", I've never heard of a story of a person, a black male, getting a full ride scholarship to a campus, and just they have a lot of potential, a lot of and so young. I mean, let's be honest. You were there 2.5 years or 2 years. You're still young. You had a lot. Did you redshirt your first year?
I didn't.
You did? You had 2 more years left. You're still kind of young. I mean, you had 2 years left to play. And so that is rare. You don't see a lot of people do that. I mean, people would be like, wow, you're giving up your scholarship. You're giving up your opportunities. You could go to NBA. To have that insight to just walk away kind of basically and continue your education, not give up on that and start finding mentors. I think that's special. I mean, that's something I've done. My last season in college, I had 2 mentors where they kind of showed me the real estate business. They showed me other things outside of just football and showed me that you can be successful outside of just going to the NFL or whatever you may have, and just put yourself in a situation to be really successful outside of your sport. So my next question for you is, what's next? How are you trying to give back, and what are some things you're currently up to?
So what's next? I currently have my hands in just a lot of different pots, trying to really experience and see where I can take it. And one of the more fun, interesting things people have asked about lately is modeling. So I actually won a modeling contest about 1.5 years ago, which allowed me to do a campaign with Shaquille O'Neal for his suit collection. Done a couple streetwear brands, and gotten to be involved in just a lot of cool projects. And COVID has currently kind of slowed that down, but I look forward to getting back to that. In terms of giving back, I serve at my church. I work with a bunch of middle schoolers, a bunch of middle school boys, just so I could try to, put them on the right path. I hear some of them talking about some of those same dreams I talked about when I was whether it's going to the NFL, going to the NBA, and I just try to give them perspective. Not that they can't do those things, but hey, that your life is bigger than those things.
Yeah.
Recently started a podcast just to share a positive thought, positive idea 3 times a week. I believe we live in a world that sometimes gets overpowered by negativity, even though there's so much good going on. There's so much hope. There's so much reason to live in the lives we all have. So I'm just trying to share something every other day that says, hey, there's a reason that you're here as an individual, and there's a reason that this life is still good. It's still beautiful. And what else? I'm on the side. I'm trying to sell. I do marketing for a career. I work for a bank right now, Renaissance Bank, and I really like the whole field of marketing. I'm trying to see where I can take that, whether it be a branding consultant or a chief marketing officer in the future. I'd love to be at a Fortune 500, leading the way, paving the way, not only for, diversity for Black men, but just in great storytelling in companies and doing things with a purpose. So those are some of the things right now. If you got something else you want to speak on, let me know. But
yeah, I'm thinking, man. I'm trying to digest what you just said. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is you met Shaquille O'Neal. Did you kind of tell him your story? Did you had a good conversation, or was it just like a meet and greet and just a couple minutes, or how was that? I mean, and also talk about modeling. I mean, to be 6'9" and to be modeling, that is kind of unique, and be Black as well. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So meeting Shaq was interesting. I actually got to spend a good bit of time with him over a couple of days because we did like a video shoot, then we did actual like photo shoot for like magazines and stuff like that. And then we did like a press conference in New York to kind of re-announce his suit line and just some of the stuff. And I didn't tell him my story, so to speak, but I did just get to hear kind of, the life he's living now, where, Shaq, I feel like, kind of embodies some of that of somebody who did something after basketball. He's become an avid business owner, owns lots of real estate. He's on the board of a few companies. Like, he's actively doing things. You can see that, even though he's a great basketball player, he could have easily just, put his hat on that. He's like, I'm still out here trying to build other things. And I felt like I was capable of doing that. So I admired that about him. We got to a good conversation just over life and business and stuff like that. So that was awesome. And then modeling has been interesting. I feel we're in a season where diversity in both, physical size as well as, color are coming into play. And it's going to be a long time to fully change that industry just because of what it's built on. But it has so much opportunity within it. And I think people love when they can see somebody who represents them. There's lots of big and tall guys like me and you who are like, man, they never have models that are big and tall guys, but they try to make clothes like that. And so I'm hoping that one day, the fit of the big and tall clothes can get a little better, but now they'll also have models out there that can kind of represent that line. And I'm signed to a really prestigious, I guess, agency. It's called Wilhelmina, which they're in London, New York, LA, they're in all these big cities. And so it's really good. So I'm hoping, like, as things progress, that I can just be a part of that change in the industry.
Okay. I mean, everything you just said is really, really awesome. I think, meeting Shaq and, because like you said, I mean, after he got done playing, I mean, Shaq went into business and was very successful, kind of like Magic Johnson. Magic was great, and then he made that transition to business, and they're both successful people, and they're Black. To hear your story, to be able to meet them, I mean, did you ever thought you would be able to have a business meeting or, like, be in a magazine with Shaquille O'Neal? Did you ever think that was possible? I mean, that's the big time. I can't even fathom that. You know what I mean? Like, that's really cool. That's something that a lot of people don't get to experience.
And it's interesting because I've wrestled with that because I've always been a big dreamer, but I've realized how much bigger I could actually dream. That there's so much more opportunity than you think, but it might look different than you think. Because see, I didn't meet Shaq playing basketball. I met him through modeling. And so I think about how I can get to some of these other arenas. It's like, let's say you want to be in a professional sports. What if you become a GM or find some way to build capital, become a part owner of a team versus playing for said team, or becoming not necessarily just the coaching route. I know a lot of people try to go the coaching route, but there's so many other avenues to get into some of these places I think you want to go that we have to teach people that success is different than you think it looks like sometimes. And that's the thing I'm a big advocate for, of like expanding people's vision of what's possible. For people like me and you, depending on the neighborhood you grew up, I know the neighborhood I grew up in, you look outside your bedroom window, you look into your community, and you don't see a lot of people who are either doing or trying to do these things. You see people who are probably, coaches, teachers, working at factories, working in management jobs, but you never see someone who's striving to, go off and be an astrophysicist. You might not see someone who's out there trying to build their own real estate company. And so you have to go out there and look a little bit beyond, just what's in your community and see that, hey, just because it's not in my neighborhood doesn't mean it's not possible for someone from my neighborhood. So I'm dreaming bigger for myself now. I'm trying to think 10x of everything I've experienced now. It's like, why can't I go live in this place? Why can't I spend half my, year in Australia and the other half in New York and Seattle and Austin, Texas? I see people who do it. Why is it not possible for me? So that's why I'm trying to get to the point of just putting those goals and dreams on papers, putting my ideas and thoughts down, and understanding my value, my worth far exceeds, being an athlete, playing basketball, just being a black man. It's in who God sees me as, what God's created me as, and that number is infinite. Everything's on the table. So
I love that attitude. I mean, you said 10 times, everything's 10 times. You feel like you can do everything 10 times bigger, and you have that energy. A lot of people can't think like that. Especially, and it's crazy that you said you met Shaq through not basketball, but modeling. And you would probably never in a million years think that was possible until it happened. And then I'm like, well, I can do whatever I put my mind to. The next question I have for you is, now that I know you're a member of a church, faith is a big part of your life. How are you, how are you guiding these, kids that you interact with at your church to, see past what they might see in their neighborhoods or their environments? And how are you letting them know that, hey, I know sometimes society can put, African Americans in a certain box, but how are you, pushing them to see, a different route, a different way than just maybe, like you mentioned, a teacher or, a construction worker or just something like that? How are you trying to help the next generation?
For me, a lot of it's just pushing self-esteem, understanding how to value yourself, that nobody's above you, that anything another person can do, if you put your mind to it, if you put in the hours, the due diligence, that you can get to that same level, that you can get to that same level of understanding, that you're just as capable of holding some of these esteemed positions, whether it be CEO, business owner, or if you do want to be a professional like that. It's within the wheelhouse of your possibility. Just to understand, you have to have that self-confidence first and that self-belief that you matter. And so that's what I start with, really, just building that foundational core principle of you matter as a human being. And don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise or tell you differently.
Okay, so it starts with self-esteem and just building them up to the point where they have a lot of confidence in themselves and their abilities. Because like I said, I remember me growing up, it was like, hey, you're tall, you're big, go get a scholarship and try to make it to the NFL. That's your only, in my mind, and in a lot of African Americans, it's the way we grew up. It's like, that's your ticket. That's the only thing you can do in life is go to the league. And it's sad. It really is sad. It makes you feel limited and handcuffed at times because, I see all these other kids doing all these other things. Why can't I do that? Why can't I go be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and lead the way? Not just be in the league or whatever. I think that's very, very important. And a lot of kids, they don't really ever get the chance to see the other side of those things, and I think it's vision, what you're saying. But
I have a distinction to that as well, though. I don't think those people are bad people all the time as well. Like, sometimes they just don't know any better. There's the saying that people can't lead you any further than they've been. So sometimes, we have those adults in our lives where those be the coaches who they may actually think that's the only ticket out because their most successful friends, so to speak, are the professional athlete who went and played 2 years in the NFL, or somebody who was a draft pick in the NBA, made a couple million pretty quick on. They may think that's true success in terms of drastically different than the life that they live. So understand that they may not be coming from a bad place, so having empathy for them as well, as in they may just have limited understanding of, one, what success is, and two, what success for you might look like. Because each of us is our own unique human being with our own different purposes and desires, and understand that everybody's path isn't the same. So I think we try to have empathy and compassion for those people as well, because they're not always just trying to hold us back, but sometimes they just don't know any better themselves.
I think I have a couple more questions for you. The next question I have for you is do you view basketball as a trampoline, like it projected you to where you're at now? A lot of guys, they jump on that trampoline with basketball, and it seems like they always stay there and they just fall through that trampoline. But it seems like with your life, you use basketball as a trampoline to project you in the future. Is that a true statement?
I would definitely say that. I think it taught me a lot about hard work, about diligence, about discipline, about coming back from losses, about how to, sustain victory, how to become a champion, have a champion-like mentality, what it's like to, I guess, truly compete, because sometimes whether it be AAU ball, high school ball at a high level, you're going against some guys that, they want it just as bad as you do. And so that kind of shows you how to become a difference maker, change maker, within a sport, but also in life. And so I think there's lots of great lessons that can be distilled from sports, but you just can't get stuck in the sport. Like, you can't act like the lesson only applies there, because some of those things, teamwork, working together, having a game plan, having a strategy, putting in the time and the hours, those things translate into every area of life. So you just can't get stuck, thinking it only applies to basketball, so I must only be good at basketball.
And my next question would be, how many books are you reading? Because I'm really curious about your answer, but like, how many books are you reading? Are you read this year so far?
So far, I've read 50 books this year. My goal was 100, so I read 100 books last year. So I set the same goal for this year to read another 100 books. So that's about 2 a week, if I miss a week or so. So yeah, so I'm at 50 right now. I'm currently reading The Souls of Black Folk, especially with all the stuff that's going on right now. I'm trying to kind of just understand more about my history, read different points of view. One of my favorite books that also goes into this, Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, recommended to everybody. Incredible book, incredible read about just, how the human will is so powerful, and how no matter where you start, you can build it up to almost anything. And that story of Booker T. Washington is incredible. So I recommend that to anyone. But yeah, 50 books down this year so far.
Man, that does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. And that's why I wanted to ask you guys how many books are you reading, because you sound so intelligent, the way you speak, and I can just see it in you that you're different. But the next thing I want to ask you is, what format? Are you physically buying these books on Amazon, or are you putting them on the Audible, or how are you reading them?
So I'm a guy, I actually like to physically have the book. And the reason I do that is because I love to be able to pass it on to people. So I love to read a book, share what I'm reading, what I'm learning. And if somebody comes up to me, asks me a question about it, I was like, hey, I actually have a book for it. Let me give you the book. So it gives me a way to kind of give back as well. So, somebody who needs a book, needs some encouragement, I got plenty of books I can give away or share. But yeah, so I've probably already bought so I try to already have my next books out. So I probably bought 70 books this year already. So,
wow. So you invest in books, and I've wrestled with this a lot. A lot of people don't like to read. They I like to think of this, and I heard this. Somebody said this. They were like, when you read a book, it's like you're downloading years of experience and emotions and down into your life and your brain when you read a book. How has books changed your life? Because I know as African Americans, a lot of us don't like to read. I mean, how has books changed your life? And I think this is very important to talk about real quick.
For me, a lot of it, it's been a perspective changer, because I get to read so many examples and stories from different walks of life that, to try to walk those paths myself, it would take several lifetimes. But to go into a book and to take the best pieces of everyone's story, to see, some of their pitfalls, to see some of their mistakes, to see some of the things that, got them to change their own mindset and being able to incorporate into my life is game changing. And anything you want to learn about, there's a book about it, which is the crazy thing. So some people talk about, oh, there's no opportunity in X, Y, or Z. I was like, you haven't read enough books on it then, because there's always opportunity. And no matter the field, no matter the industry, whether it's healthcare, nursing, business, finance, there's so much that can be learned. And you only have to be great at one field is the incredible thing,
So when did that passion for, reading books, or that, that energy to read books, when did that really, start to cultivate in your life? Was that in college? Was that something you always done? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Again, I think I have to give a nod to my mom, who I remember she used to take us to the summer reading programs and all that stuff as we were kids and growing up. And a lot of it died down for me, I guess, probably when I hit high school, because it wasn't cool to read anymore. It just wasn't, a cool thing to do. It wasn't cool to walk around with a book, And so that kind of pushed me away from it. But then college, when basketball ended for me again, I started talking to my mentors. That was some of the first things they all passed. It was like, hey, have you read this book? And that for me, the light went off for me again. I was like, I got to get back to reading. Got to get back to that core of getting information from the source and distilling it down into principles and truths I can use. And so that's what got me back to it. Haven't stopped since.
Okay. Like I said, that is something that's true. I mean, you talk to anybody who's successful in any type of field or any type of market, they'll say, hey, go listen or go read this book or this article or some type of piece of, literature. and it's not surprising. I mean, they're successful and they're reading these different books and these different sources. It's a correlation, and I've seen it too. So my next question for you is, with this reading, how are you reading 2 books a week? You know, what's the method to that? I mean, have you developed that skill set where you can read fast, or have you heard of the term speed reading? Is that something you do? I mean,
I heard the term speed reading. I don't speed read.
Okay.
I actually just shave the time that I was going to use to, whether it be watching TV. You know, if you have time to watch a full series or something, watch 3 movies a week. If you cut out just a little bit of that time, you can read 2 books. You know what I'm saying? There's so many hours in a week, so I just take, I like to do like distinct 30-minute segments. Like I'll tell like, hey Alexa, hey Google, set 30-minute timer, and I'll just read the entire time, and that for me works. And it's like, especially if you find stuff you want to learn about, because now it's like no excuse. You're also absorbed in the content. Like reading a good book to me is the same as watching a good movie, because the story is the same, the pitch is the same. You can control the pace of it. It's worth it. All you gotta do is find what you want to learn, set a distinct time frame to do it in, and it just comes together.
Get it done. So, man, I really appreciate you hopping on the channel and giving your story. It's unique. It's full of different trials and tribulations and success stories that I think a lot of people need to see that look like us. And I really appreciate your time, like I said, of you hopping on the channel and sharing your story, because some people can be fearful to hop on the channel, the Unclouded Recruit channel, and get on here and tell their story and be authentic about it and say, hey, this is what I went through. This is my experiences. This is where I'm at right now. This is where I'm looking at in the future. Because I think a lot of kids who go to college, especially on athletic scholarship, they need to know that, hey, you have more options in life, because yes, these coaches, they bring in speakers, but it's always kind of focused on that sport at hand. It's never focused on anything outside of that. So you can get lost in a lot of things going through that process of not knowing who you are. And, it's almost like they train you up to be a robot, and you have to think a certain way, act a certain way, dress a certain way, look a certain way. And once that's 4 or 5 years is over with, you're expected to go into society and you don't even know who you are. So how can you be successful? And I think your story is just something that a lot of people need to hear. And I really appreciate you hopping on the channel. I really do.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. And if there's any way I can help you, or if you want to put together a book list for athletes who are transitioning out, we can do that together. So just let me know. I want to do anything to help see more people like us, and just anyone who's in this stage of life, be successful. So
got it, man. That's something we definitely can do. Put a book list together and push it out, man, and get people reading.